The virtual CISO moment is brought to you by vCISO Services, a leading provider of quality and experienced virtual chief information security officers for small and mid-sized businesses. Check them out at vcisoservices.com. Hi, I'm Greg Schaefer, and welcome to the virtual CISO moment. Davy Cox joins us today. He is the founder of Brainframe. Davy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Nice to be
So
here.
I would love to hear your journey. I know we first connected when I first heard about Brainframe, and am very curious to learn about that. But before we get there, I'd like to hear your background, how you got interested in cyber and IT, and why. I mean, why start in a
Sure.
career field which is so stressful, and then just go through your path and how it led eventually to forming the company.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And already first, I think I have a more of an unusual career path going into cyber, because I come from the startup landscape, really. So that's why I also find very interesting your point on small and medium businesses. So I'm Belgian from origin, and living in Luxembourg. We really, from young on, already started always interested in anything that was to do with computers. So started even my first chat app when I was 11, and now thinking back with ChatGPT is like all the fascination with cyber security growing up. I did my bachelor's in ICT electronics. Always in the entrepreneur side. Started up the first company with my sister in Luxembourg. That's how I got to Luxembourg, which was really like one of the first platforms. So really the technical side, and they're always more and more in getting in touch with keeping things up and running and keeping them secure. Let's say it like that. So, and for those that don't know Luxembourg so well, so it's really like a tiny small country around France, Germany, and Belgium, and it's really a fantastic place to really grow in cybersecurity, which is where I also did my master in 2010 with a lot of self-training like OSCP, but always very let's say practical in and for application as my role as the IT responsible at that time for the company. And then in 2016 basically founded Brainframe Technology. So I wanted to get out a bit of the family business and start my own thing. And that's where we started really working in the consulting, both infrastructure and security, going into the CISO as a service role. So really from the broad experience, always combining a bit really the technical knowledge, partially implementing things, solving really complex solutions, while also making sure that they get a secure service in the end. So, which brought me in 2017 with a company called Doctina, which is similar, I think, in the US to ZocDoc. I don't know if that's very known, like where you can take medical appointments, where you can quickly find a practitioner. So which is active in like many countries in Europe. And so there I took the CISO role, and was my first experience as a CISO, really. So which was also like growing into the role, very, very interesting, especially at the time with the introduction of GDPR, as you probably all are very familiar with.
Absolutely.
The annoying Europeans, right, with the GDPR.
We're on the other side of the pond, but we have a lot of GDPR touch points. So
I know. It's not easy, right? Especially, for American companies trying to do business here, and Europe is not making it easier.
Right.
So, yeah, that's a bit where my background comes from. And I grew up more in doing a CISO as a service. At a certain moment, I had three bigger companies, also another complex company which was specialized in IoT for connected footwear, super interesting technology. And at a certain moment, then really came out with the product for Brainframe, which is something that came from the history of my CISO role, rolling into the CISO role, because I saw there was really like a big need for different tools, and it was very complex. If you don't have you don't join a big company, you don't get all the experience, let's say, immediately, and you need to figure out things yourself. There are a lot of things missing, especially for a startup and small businesses as a CISO providing services. And yeah, that's how we roll a bit into this function.
So it would seem to me that, at least from your perspective, that one of the more prevalent threats or gaps, maybe in this case, to small and mid-sized business information security revolves around frameworks and compliance and not being able to successfully, I was going to say successfully track, but at some point in time, sometimes folks don't even know what they're supposed to do. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are multiple things. If you see it in small companies, especially Europe today is pushing for a lot of on like it was with GDPR. They're now pushing and around the world. I think in the US it's also pushing a lot today for regulation. We have the NIS, had the NIS already. We have NIS 2. We have now financial regulation. A lot of things are being pushed to even smaller companies, depending on what they're doing, and they often don't know how to approach this. And a typical thing that we see in the past is that, let's say, the GRC, so governance, risk, and the compliance platforms, they're only added to a company very late, saying when they're 50 or 100 employees and they have a certain size. Where if you think about cybersecurity, one of the key elements that often is missed is what are you trying to do? Really being pragmatic about the cybersecurity. What are your key assets? What do you really want to protect? You maybe don't have a big budget, but focus on the essentials. And so that's why if you want to follow a certain standard from the start, like ISO 27001, you have different challenges around this standard that should not be there. And that's a bit why we created Brainframe, which is basically a GRC platform, helping small to medium companies at a very affordable price to start using and implementing all these key things. So if I think out loud, like standard document approvals, standard document communication, the risk management, KPI tracking, all these things, these are often things you need to have in a separate tool. Creating diagrams about how your flow are working, documenting your assets and how they interrelate. These are all things that sound very simple by themselves, but you each time need a different tool. And especially for small companies that don't have already like legacy software, software that they can use for that, that's a bit the gap that we want to solve here. Does that make sense?
It does. We just had a little glitch on our side there where I lost you for about 2 seconds, but I think in the video it'll come back fine. So, I mean, I like that, but I'm gonna ask. What we call here in the States, I'm gonna lob a softball question here for a second. Why not just use spreadsheets? I mean, if you're a small business to track like your assets and your risks and your compliance, why not just use spreadsheets? Why would a small business need a tool?
Why not use spreadsheets? Actually, there is nothing wrong with spreadsheets, and that's even with bigger companies that we see today that are using spreadsheets. The challenge with spreadsheets is that, first of all, you don't have the relationships. So if you think about spreadsheets, what you typically would do is you create, first of all, somewhere an asset register. You then on those assets, you're going to do like a risk evaluation, and these risks. Then afterwards, how are you going to track them? It's really about the management side of things. So inside Brainframe, we're not going to specifically do a risk assessment tool. We're not going to push for a certain methodology. That you can still do in Excel. You can do that in your favorite tool, even specific to a standard that you want to follow. The real challenge is, how am I going to track what I actually need to do? I've done this exercise. I want to have this on a certain Kanban. So we created like a whole task flow system. if we're taking a standard, how do you simply implement the access request? How do you simply implement an onboarding of an employee, onboarding of a supplier? These are all by themselves very simple tasks. But with a simple Excel, yes, you can do quite a lot of things, but it stays just inside of Excel, and really the platform around that we create, it makes something visible, and it makes you grow and document basically your infrastructure, your system as you grow. And like that, you don't end up with a big blocking point, like, okay, now we suddenly discover we need to follow this regulation and we need to catch up, do a huge catch up.
Yeah, and I think you touched upon one of the most important things of a GRC type tool versus spreadsheets, and that is the relationship between the data, because that's where you really, really have your multiplying effects, and you can get a good picture in one platform. I almost said a pane of glass, but I don't really like using that saying. That's like so overused right now. Well, so I want to dig a little bit more specifically into BrainFrame, and let's talk a little bit about how it can help those in the virtual CISOs field. So a lot of what the folks that view this podcast are virtual CISOs, and part of the reason for the podcast is to help them with potential new tools and new methodologies, or maybe not even new, but just ways to make not only their services or consulting services more effective and complete, but also more efficient. So from a virtual CISO standpoint, how can BrainFrame help?
Well, this is the perfect question, because this is actually exactly what we're doing. So typically, most companies that have a GRC solution, they will try to sell to the end customer, right? We do this as well. So for bigger companies that have really like the resources internally, but we have a consultant first. So it's already like a platform that has been constructed from a perspective of a consultant, and also really consultant first. So we provide, actually, we sell towards the consultant a gain of time, in the sense that due to digitalization, they basically have all the tools. When you start, if you take it very simple, a consultant that is very experienced, typically, and depends on the size of the company, they can handle one consultant can handle 2 to 3 different companies. It all depends on the complexity, of course. If you take the same complexity with digitalization through BrainFrame, you can handle 3 to 4. And that's what we sell, a gain of time. Gain of time in, okay, I'm starting with a new customer. Typically, you would ask the customer, okay, what tools do you use? Are you using Google? Are you using SharePoint? Are you using what kind of internal tools? Here you come with a platform. You basically have your own workspace, what we call it, where you have all your different templates, all your ways of working, and we don't push the way that you should work, because we don't come with templates of documents. We come with templates of ways of working, and so you basically can put in your own way of methodology, your own document templates, and use those to work with your customers. So we're never gonna, let's say, compete with the consultant. And that, I don't know how this is in the US, but definitely here, it's a unique selling proposition, because we're not competing with the vCISOs. We're actually helping them.
Well, I actually I love the statement you used was gain of time. And I know in the virtual CISO field, time is one of those items which is
There's
I
just
won't
that
say
much of it.
exactly. And particularly like when you're onboarding a new client and trying to understand their environment, you have a very short period of time to figure it out. And that takes an awful lot of work, a lot of stress of what I was talking
Exactly.
about as well too. So anything that's gain of time is definitely going to help. Now, the product you've mentioned ISO 27001 before. What what standards and regulations does the product support, or is it flexible enough that you can actually say import a standard in?
This is our second key selling proposition. So it is the flexibility. We actually don't come with, like I said before, any templates. Also, from the frameworks, you can actually put anything inside that you want. So it's at the basis, it's a document management system, visually, so to something that everybody understands. So if you currently work in SharePoint or a local file structure, you basically you can upload your documents and immediately start working with your Word and Excel and even PowerPoint documents. But we created a whole kind of let's say vocabulary that is industry specific, which is also becoming document types. Think about a supplier, think about an employee. They all just become documents within Brainframe. And from there, you create in a whole folder structure, the same way that you're used to. You structure them. And from there, you can make relationships between all these documents. Imagine how policies are related to each other, but also imagine how is my infrastructure, how is my server X related to Y, which are my primary assets, which are the supporting assets. We have also like this qualitative risk management tool, which is simply, again, a risk reading on a document which is representing a risk. And from there, you can get quickly a very pragmatic. That was the key thing in the system. Pragmatic. Stay simple. Don't put in like definitely not quantitative risk management and these kind of things, because this is not what small and medium businesses need.
Yeah, that is a is a huge point about quantitative risk management, because just doing one quantitative assessment it can be incredibly detailed, and you can't have that as the basis for your risk management program. I'm a fan of quantitative risk, but to your point about small and mid-sized businesses, most of the time where they're lacking is in the basics, and you got to get the foundation right.
Exactly.
First. So,
exactly.
Is this platform, is it hosted on site? Is it SaaS based, or do you have a hybrid or a mix of services?
Yeah, we offer both. So it's hosted on AWS. So we have a SaaS version that you can start using like that. And we have also an on-premise solution for specific needs. So especially here in Luxembourg, I know it's a bit like Switzerland. There's a lot of banking regulation here. And so many of our customers, they really need it specifically locally. And yeah, so we're quite flexible there.
And do you offer, I'm getting back to the virtual CISOs now, putting on my business hat, do you offer a partner program for virtual CISOs?
Well, the partnership is actually, so you could look at it like a typical reselling model, where you as a vCISO basically are implementing it for your customers. The big difference there is that we try to create a win-win between us and the CISO, in the sense that we sell to you or offer you the gain of time, while you, from your side, are offering us the visibility towards your customers. And on top of that, because you have your methodology, you have your document templates, we cannot support directly your end customers. So it's in that way, it's really a win-win, and we're very transparent about this business model, because it's working super well. Everybody is happy with that, because yeah, we also, if people come to us and say, Greg, you come tomorrow and say, Davy, fantastic platform, but it would be cool. This is something that I lose every day, time with my customer to do this and this, a process. So we were trying to be very flexible and really like adding features that make sense for everybody.
And on that point, and this will be my last question about Brainframe, but adding features that are there right now, you probably will agree with me that the folks that control the money, the C-suite, the ones they're not that much interested in like an Excel output, but they want to see some reports that have some nice colors or something. Do you offer some reports to help the virtual CISO and the CISO, if it's a bigger business, tell the story correctly to the C-suite and the board of directors?
Well, like I said before, so the core of the system is already very visual. So we try to visualize things. So you have like all kind of diagrams, how systems interrelate. On top of that, we have something that we call like the workbench, which is like a real Kanban system where you can visualize again the process when you're sitting together with the head of department to focus only on risks or on non-conformities or things that are specific to that department or to a specific product. But on top of that, also we make the mapping, like the maturity mapping, and linking to any, because that's you asked, I didn't reply 100%, I think, earlier on to your question, like, okay, you have multiple standards. And the challenge when you have multiple standards is we have a lot of controls, a lot of policies that map to those same standards. And typically with many systems, you need to do some trickery to put or duplicate stuff, and then you need to maintain it. And here we basically link just those documents and those controls directly to those different standards, where you can then also track the maturity, which also comes then with reporting that you can give to the C-suite.
That's awesome. Well, we'll talk after the podcast. I'm looking forward to seeing the product, and I want to just say to everybody, it's like, I know that a couple of the questions I asked you, well, that was a great question, and then that was a second great question. I want to verify to everybody, so like, we have not rehearsed this before.
That's true.
So I know from experience, being a virtual CISO and having been a CISO, I've been in IT and infosec since 1989. So I've been doing this for a couple of years, and it can be very stressful. And then you layer upon the entrepreneurship. I've been running vCISO services now for 6 years. And we talked before the beginning about, it seems like both you and I had a rather stressful week this week.
Yes.
And we're looking forward to the weekend. We need to get away from that stress in order to recharge, refresh, and then bring our A game when we come back to what it is that we do and love so much. So what is one thing that you do to try to get away and recharge?
For me, it's first of all, I don't so much, because like you stated very correctly, I mean, combining entrepreneurship, CISO, and then on top of that still 2 kids, it's a challenge. Yeah. But I think for an entrepreneur, it's really, that's what makes us thrive at the moment. So one of the key things that I really love doing is listen. Reading books or listening to audiobooks, doing some like self improvement stuff, thinking about psychology. And for example, and I find that very, I heard that in several of your podcasts, everybody has a different answer. And for me, it comes down to a book that I'm now reading, which is called Flow. And it's like getting into the flow, right? You have sport people that get into their zone, they get really completely focused. And for me, it is also in your free time. Like, some people are simply workaholics and they don't consider it as work, right? They can disconnect in a way that is different. Others, like myself, I have this with music. So if I'm playing guitar, I'm time passes away. That's for me a way to disconnect, let's say. So
I think the most important thing is that you recognize the way that you are, because I agree. I mean, there are sometimes being an entrepreneur that I mean, that's what I do, and it's that makes it less stressful. But still, I think you have to know yourself and have that basic self-awareness, or that very deep self-awareness, I should say. Well, future plans, grow Brainframe, or what other future plans?
So growing Brainframe, really trying to make it the #1 platform for consultants, basically. So we're talking even with the Big Four, there's really some big advancements coming. And knowing the time that we already put in and the money, it's really nice to see that it's growing. So also, like, advancements in plans is thinking about, I'm approaching now my 40s, and they say always, like, up to your 20s, 23s, it's all about learning stuff. Then up to your 40s is like building your career and building relationships. And now up to 40s, that's like trying to also give back, which is a bit behind where the whole system of consulting, making a solution for consultants in a very affordable way, comes from. So because there is a lack of specialists on the market, there is a big move to vCISOs in general, because anybody who is basically inside of a company today that has the capabilities will unfortunately quickly go away and become a consultant, because they can learn more from different experiences and things. And there are so many ways to share and to, let's say, to help grow other people. So that's a bit the mentoring side.
No, I love it, and I totally agree with the concept of giving back as well too. Well, the website, if I've got it right, is www.brainframe.com, correct?
Exactly.
All right. Well, listen,
That's right.
Davy, I have so much enjoyed this conversation. I'm looking forward to checking out more about BrainFrame and appreciate your time here on the podcast.
Likewise. Thank you very much for inviting me, and looking forward to next time.
All right, everybody, stay secure.